All right, last segment to go. We're gonna put our money where our mouth is. Sergio had to dip, so we have just me and Daniel, and we're gonna talk about some FIFA World Cup superlatives. So I'm obviously going to talk about a category, and we're just going to go back and forth real quick, and talk about who we have in that category. So let's go quickly. Dark horse team. Daniel, you can go first.
Dark Horse can mean a lot to me,
Yeah.
but to me, I think Dark Horse, just because I'm gonna keep mentioning them a lot, it's gonna be Ecuador.
Okay.
Ecuador to me is the dark horse of this tournament, just because they haven't historically Ecuador hasn't done much when it comes to the World Cup, and I think this is the year where they've got a strong squad, strong
Hmm.
defense, with an offense that if it prevails, it'll help benefit this team a lot. And
Yeah.
so to me, it's like I think this team could easily make it to a round of 16.
Okay. Yeah, for me, it's Switzerland. They have a rock solid unit. They have some really underrated attackers. And I think they have an upset or two in them when it comes to the knockout stages. If they win their group, they could meet Portugal in the round of 16, which I think they'll fancy their chances in this rematch of what happened in 2022. They're going to want revenge for that absolute domination that Portugal had against them in the round of 16 in 2022. I think they could pull off a huge upset or two, and they haven't really punched above their weight all that often when it comes to the Euros or the World Cup. I think they beat France in the Euros, did they not? I think in the last Euros. I might be
Um,
totally wrong about that, but regardless, they
that I
they really
wouldn't
haven't
know.
punched above their weight all that often in the World Cup, and so I think I'm looking for them to really do something in this World Cup. It was the Euro 2020. That's when it was because they beat them on pens. I think they have it in them, and I think Switzerland can certainly do that. Some other candidates I have for dark horses to make possible deep run in this tournament compared to their expectations. The USA, Mexico, Turkey, Egypt, and Ecuador was the other team that I had as a possible other candidates. Let's move on quickly to biggest group stage surprise team. So we have a positive and a negative for this one. Let's start off with the positive, Daniel. Who do you have as the biggest positive group stage surprise team?
I think the most positive group stage surprise can be Bosnia and Herzegovina,
Okay. Yeah.
right? I think
Herzegovina.
this team, oh, for Herzegovina, okay. I think this team can do, I think they can do things in their group, Like the team you just talked about, Switzerland, I think they're going to win that group. But I think when it comes to Canada and Qatar and them,
Hmm.
I think honestly those three can go any way in a sense. And I really see this Bosnia team finishing second with Canada finishing third as, one of the best third place teams. But
Hmm.
like I think this is a team that can really go out there and finish second and move on to the knockouts.
Okay. For my positive group stage surprise team, I predict them to get second, but they can for sure win this group. And I'm gonna go with Ivory Coast. They have a tough group against Ecuador and Germany, but I think I'm going to be on the Kool-Aid now that they've beaten France. This Germany team, I think, is not better than the France team that they beat over the last weekend, and they have some great attacking wingers. Amad Diallo, I talked about on the last episode of why I'm super excited to see him. Yan Diamand is still on this team. Ousmane Diamand is going to be a big factor. Franck Kessié is a big factor for this team. I just think that this team is suited to make a run. You have a amazing defense like Ecuador does. I don't think they have as good of a defense as Ecuador, but they have a really good defense. But the difference to me is their wingers. They have some attackers that can really score some goals and some bench options that can really score some goals, including Doué's brother, who scored a goal in that France game. I think Ivory Coast can certainly win their group in Group E. I don't predict that to happen, but I think they certainly can. In terms of the negative group stage surprise, I'll go first for this one. I think it's Sweden. I am so off of the Sweden team. They have a tough group against Netherlands and Japan, and they got dominated by Norway. Granted, Norway is a good team, but I just think this team snuck their way somehow, some way into this World Cup, and my I think they're going to finish last in that group. I think they finish below Tunisia. I know a lot of people have them possibly getting second place in that group in front of a Japan or a Netherlands. But I think they finish last. I think they have a terrible World Cup. I think they finish below Tunisia, who I think can present some defensive issues for them.
Yeah. So for me, I think speaking of Norway, I think Norway's my biggest, negative surprise.
Okay.
I'm not
I
gonna say
agree with
Norway's
you
a
here.
bad. I'm not gonna say Norway's a bad team because Norway is a great team, but this group that they're in,
Yeah.
it's tough with Senegal
Hmm.
and France. I think those are the big dogs of this team. Senegal is a really good team. I think Senegal is better than Norway. Yeah, you
Okay.
got
Yeah.
Holland, but I don't think this Norway team has what it needs to move on from the group stages. I think Iraq can even present a bit of a problem. And if you say you lose to France, draw with Senegal, that Iraq game can destroy any hopes of you going out into
Yeah.
the knockouts.
Yeah, I still think that they'll make the knockout round as a third place team, but the biggest thing I have with a lot of people that have Norway going far in this tournament is Norway has never been they have not been in a major international tournament in forever. They haven't qualified for a lot of the Euros in recent history, and they also have not qualified for a lot of the World Cups in a long time. And so I think that could present a little bit of a danger for them. Some other positive that I almost put Jordan. I think Jordan could surprise a couple of people in that group with Algeria, Austria, and Argentina. And then negative, Saudi Arabia. I'm so down on Saudi Arabia. This team is just not as good as they used to be last World Cup, and even then, they shocked a lot of people with that Argentina win. But it's I'm not gonna go out here and say it was a fluke win because I actually think they played really well in that game. But it comes off that way because of how they performed in AFC Asian qualifying. All right, let's move on to the Golden Boot winner. Who do you think wins the Golden Boot, Daniel?
Just because it's happened last year, I think it's happening again this year. Kylian Mbappe, I think he goes crazy
Okay.
in the group stages. And when it comes to knockout time, I think he's guaranteed at least one goal a game, if not every other game.
All right, I'm gonna go a little bit weird. I'm gonna go Mikel Oyarzabal. Oyarzabal.
Okay.
I said it like a Barcelona guy would, but that's probably incorrect. I don't know. Striker for Spain. Looking at this path for Spain, just hear me out. So they have Saudi Arabia, Cape Verde, and Uruguay in the group stage, which I think is the easiest group for any of the pot one teams. Um, then they could possibly play Austria, and then they would play either Colombia or Croatia, based on my prediction, and then either Belgium or Turkey. I think he'll have great service from players like Yamal, who will be back in this in this tournament. Pedri and Ferran Torres. I almost went with Lamine Yamal, but I think that he won't play for the first game, and so I think Oyarzabal will have a mix of a very easy group stage that I think will provide some goals and a deep run with their team. And I think this kind of becomes a perfect recipe for success. So I'm going with Oyarzabal as my Golden Boot winner. All right, breakout star of the tournament. Let's go, Daniel.
So I'm taking Gilberto Mora. I think that was a given for
Okay.
this one. I think
Yeah.
he's gonna prove so many people why he's so big in Mexico and why everybody's calling his name right now. And
Hmm.
it's already like a given that there are gonna be scouts out there watching him, seeing what he can do. And I think he proves to everyone why should deserve and will get a Europe move in the next coming years.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Endrick. I know Endrick is already known. So you might say this doesn't really count for like a breakout star, but I think he does take the step from, a known bright future guy to a superstar in this tournament over the course of this entire tournament. I think he's had flashes of absolute brilliance for this team. And obviously, with the injuries to the Brazilian attack, I think it was Wesley, who got injured a couple days ago. I think he's going to have to step up a little bit more. He has the goal scoring ability, and I think combined with a deep run potential, I think Endrick will be my breakout star of the tournament. Not necessarily going from like some guy that we don't know to some guy that we do know, kind of like James in 2014, but more of a guy that is known right now as the future that I think will this will be his star making performance for this tournament. Most entertaining team at this tournament. I'll go first for this one. I think it's going to be the USA. The offense is elite for this team with guys like Christian Pulisic and Fuller and Balogun and Giovanni Reina, Weston McKennie, Serginho Dest. All of these guys are so good on offense, but the defense is also leaking goals without the guys like Chris Richards in there. Maybe with Chris Richards back, this USA team could be a little bit more lockdown, but I think that this kind of provides a perfect recipe for a very entertaining team at this tournament. The U.S. also being a host of this tournament is going to create a raucous environment and atmosphere for these games. And I think their ceiling provides for some insane upsets. Like if they hit their ceiling, to me, they're going to upset a big team in the round of 16 or the round of 32 and get to the quarterfinal. I think quarterfinals is their ceiling for me personally, but their floor is also they get grouped. And so that also provides for a crazy elimination. And I think the USA is going to have the most entertaining games at this tournament. Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey are going to provide for some fun opponents. And I think because of that ceiling floor dynamic, because they can go so high, but they can also go so low, that's why I think the USA is going to be the most entertaining team at this tournament.
I didn't think for this category, I didn't think of it how you thought of that because I just chose
Yeah.
France just because of the fact that like
I mean, you can't go wrong.
I think yeah, you can't go wrong with it. And I think just given, their group stage games, I think there will be lots of goals scored and something that's very entertaining. And
Yeah.
then as they France loves to take their time when it comes to knockout stage games. Takes their time. Makes their games not necessarily difficult, but keeps you on the edge of your seat, waiting for when that goal is going to come in.
Yeah, for sure. I think France is kind of like the one. If I was looking at it in your way, then I would probably pick France because of just the amount of insane attackers that they have. But I kind of looked at it in like what team, even if they succeed or even if they fail, would be such a fun team to watch. Norway, I think, was another team that I kind of put in that aspect. But I think because of the USA being a host is kind of why I made that tiebreaker. All right, we got a couple more things to do. Most disappointing team. Daniel, I'll let you go first on this one.
So I'm gonna say disappointing team if it were to happen. Not saying it will, but Mexico. I think Mexico could be a very disappointing team this World Cup if things just don't go their way at all. You know, you get a loss that South Africa game. I think morale is low. I think going into South Korea, it's just not going to be great. Now, will that happen? I don't think so. But I will call
Mhm.
this team the most disappointing team if any of that were to happen.
Yeah, I get that. I went more of like a predictive thing. Like I think this team is going to be the most disappointing team. I alluded to it earlier in the last segment. I think it's going to be Japan. I think for me, I love Japan. I think they're such a good team, but the injury to Matoma really does hurt their attack. And I think the biggest reason why I think Japan is going to be my biggest disappointment is because they're matched with Group C in the knockouts. So if they win their group, they're most likely going to play Morocco, which I think is a team that they can lose to. I think Morocco's the better team right now. If they get second in their group, they're probably going to play Brazil. And so that's the other side of the coin that you don't want to do. Now, obviously, they could also play Scotland if Scotland wins or gets second in the group and Japan gets the opposite, which I think Japan will probably like their odds in that one. But I think Brazil and Morocco are more than likely going to be the 1 and 2 team, regardless of permutation in that tournament. So that is where I think. And then in my sim, if they get third and they advance, I have them playing France. So I think they probably get eliminated in all 3 of those games. And even though I think Japan, if they were to have a little bit of more of a luck of the draw, I think they probably could have made a quarterfinal or semifinal run. I just think that they're going to be matched up with a super tough team, regardless of where they finish in their group. And that's why I think they'll have an early exit. And that's why I have Japan as my most disappointing team in this tournament. All right, Golden Ball winner. Golden Ball winner for you, Daniel.
Lamine Yamal, simple as that.
Okay.
I think this man is gonna put on a show this tournament once he returns. I think he's gonna be the one to stop. If you are gonna get to the Spain team, you gotta stop him, and I just don't think that's gonna happen. I think you look out for him to be the number one assist maker, creating these chances for his team. And even, I put them up there top three come, goal scores.
Yeah, assist maker is the reason why I picked this guy to be my Golden Ball winner. It's going to be Bruno Fernandes from Portugal. I think that Bruno, is going to be the engine for that midfield, while Vitinha and Joao Neves are going to try and be a little bit more of the creative guys that can also kind of stop play. Bruno is going to be the guy that I think really makes this team work and is involved with all of the goals for this team. I think also games against Uzbekistan and DR Congo, which I think both are pretty good teams. I think that Portugal can exploit their midfields, and Bruno Fernandes is going to be the reason for that. And I think Portugal will make a deep run in this tournament, and that's why I think Bruno Fernandes will be the Golden Ball player, because I think that he will be the catalyst for why Portugal makes a deep run in this tournament. All right, 2 things to go. Most anticipated game of the tournament. I have 2 for this one. My first one is going to be a group stage game. I am going with Portugal versus Colombia. You talk about 2 top 10 teams going at each other. I could have also picked Brazil versus Morocco, but I am more excited for Portugal versus Colombia because of the ramifications that it has for both of these teams in the knockout stages, because whoever gets second, I think, will have a tougher draw come the next round instead of Brazil versus Morocco. So give me Portugal versus Colombia for the group stage. The way you reacted, I think you had the same exact opinion.
I did. I really like this game. I'm really
Yeah.
hyped for it. I told you before, Colombia is one of those teams that I will support after, they're like one of those third teams. And you said
hmm
it best about this game. There are gonna be a lot. There's gonna be a lot on the line for this, just for this group, and where it sets them up come knockout stages. But if I had to pick another game for me, I'm gonna pick Mexico versus South Korea, just because of that game
Yeah.
has so much history. Come 2018, and just you know how that game was gonna shape up to be. I think that will be the game for first in that group, and it'll it'll pose a lot of competition and set up for what comes next.
Yeah. No USA versus Iran shouts, huh? That could be a round of 32 game, and I think
It
that could
really
be
could.
a pretty cool game. Obviously, without the whole political side of things, Iran being knocked out by the USA in the last World Cup could have also
Hey,
make a good game in that one.
you could also get the USA versus England on July 3rd, though.
Yeah, I think there is a way to do that, but I don't know
I
how
think they
that
both
would
have to
work.
finish second. I think it's they both
Okay,
finish second.
yeah, I think that is how they're gonna have to do it. All right, last one. Let's do it. Who is going to win the World Cup? I'm looking for a champion and the runner-up. I'll let you go first. Who is your World Cup champion and who is in the World Cup for you?
I think I've been alluding to it all video, all
Yeah,
recording. I think coming up to this, I think you probably could have predicted considering how I've talked about them, but I'm
New
gonna say
Zealand.
Spain. But no, but
Okay.
Spain, I think Spain is shaping up to be a elite European powerhouse. I think they are the team to mess with, or not to mess with, I should say. I believe that this Spain team is going to do great things this tournament, and think I'm trying to think how it'll shape up, but I
So
could
I'll,
see.
I'll give it to you. So the favorites on the other side of the bracket would be either Brazil, England, Argentina, or Portugal.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say Argentina. I could see this
Okay.
being a Spain versus Argentina final with a true Messi passing on the torch to Lamine Yamal.
Okay. I am going to go with Spain defeating Portugal in the final. So I also have Spain winning, but I just think Portugal's midfield is so good, and one of the anticipated matches that I have for this tournament in the knockout stages possibly would be a Portugal Argentina quarterfinal game. And I think that the way that Argentina played for Messi in 2022, I think a very good Portugal side is going to try and play for Cristiano Ronaldo in this World Cup. Sadly, I think they're going to fall short in the final because I just think Spain, as you alluded to, is just so complete. And I think by the time they get to that final, they would have had to beat like a Belgium, USA, or Turkey in the quarterfinal. But then also on top of that, they would have had to beat probably like either France or Germany in the semi. And so I think they're going to be able to catch momentum. Lamine Yamal coming back into this team. Fabian Ruiz, I think, is going to be a big part of this team's success at this World Cup. And I just think, again, as a complete team, they just are able to beat out their Iberian neighbors and beat Portugal. And I think this will also be a cool setup because Spain and Portugal, along with Morocco, are going to be the hosts for the 2030 World Cup. So I have Spain defeating Portugal. You have Spain defeating Argentina. Let the best man win in that scenario. I guess we're just hoping for whoever comes in second for that one. That's all for today. We went really long today, but I had a really good discussion over all 4 of these segments that we had today. Remember to follow us on Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, and YouTube at The Relay Media. Other than that, thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time on Friday.